is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
If you're looking for high school basketball talk, you have come to the right place. We have a fun show lined up for everyone today, so let's get to it.
This is Main Street Preps This Week with Russell Venozzi and Tyler Palmatier. This week, the guys welcome in Rockvale girls basketball coach Bill Hockenberry, and, of course, the Fab 15 rankings and much more games of the week. Now to your host, Main Street Preps This Week. Here's Russell Venozzi and Tyler Palmatier.
Hey, everyone. It's time for another episode of Main Street Preps This Week. I'm Russell Venozzi, joined as always by Tyler Palmatier. Tyler, how we living today? You doing all right?
Pretty good. Yeah, I was telling JP before we got in, it's nice to see the sun for a change the last couple of days. So, yeah, I'm pumped for the show today.
Yeah, I think everybody's been pretty low on vitamin D after these last couple of weeks, so hopefully we can get out and get a little bit of sunshine. And but for now, we're still in gyms doing basketball as the regular season comes to a close this week for all Division I and a good portion of Division II teams. And of course, district tournaments are starting for the Division II AA teams as well. So it's an exciting time of high school basketball. And to talk about it, we're going to bring in Rockvale girls basketball coach Bill Hockenberry. We're going to go over our notes from the latest Fab 15 rankings and preview the games to watch this week. But first, we welcome in Bill. How you doing today, sir?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. And Coach, you guys have enjoyed a breakout year here in your third season as a program. 18-6 is the record heading into this final week of the regular season. What's the excitement level been like around school surrounding your team?
The excitement level has been off the chart, with us being a third-year program. Really sports all around the Rockvale community and all our sports really taking off. It really started this year with Coach Rice with football this year. We had a breakthrough win last year against Stewart to make the region. It kind of jump-started our program into where we are this year. And really all the sports around Rockvale have really picked up this year, and all the community support, student support. We've had our girls soccer team win a district regular season championship. We had our volleyball team go to the region last year. We've had our golf team make the state tournament, the first team that made it in school history. And our wrestling team has won their region this year. So we've had a lot of sports here at Rockvale that have really started to take off this year.
Bill, this is Tyler. What do you remember most about growing up around Rutherford County basketball? Your dad, George, obviously serving as the longtime Oakland coach. That area has such a appreciation for basketball. What do you remember about being in those gyms?
Tyler, I was lucky enough to grow up in the gyms at Oakland High School, and there were some back when it was just Riverdale and Oakland, and a lot of the kids today don't really understand that. How big of that rivalry was back then, where it was either you were on one side of town or you were on the other. And, every time you'd go play, back in those days when Dad was coaching and when, I got to watch Randy King with the boys coach over there at Oakland and Gary Johnson and Kevin Woodson, it was a packed house every time that they played. It was the event of the week every time they played. I got me in particular getting to grow up there at Oakland. I remember, getting to play as a kid. We had Brennan King, who ended up, getting drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers in the supplemental first round of the Major League Draft. I had Patrick Hicklin, who pitched Tennessee to the College World Series and got drafted by the Minnesota Twins. And we had a lot of high-level athletic kids that I grew up with. So those are the kind of things that I remember, growing up there, and really how competitive and how all the teams that were at Oakland at that time, boys and girls teams, that, it meant a lot to the community. It meant everything to those kids. Every time you played, it was representing your family. And I saw a lot of high-level basketball. I'm just blessed to be able to do that.
And to fast forward back to the present day here, Bill, your team's got a really balanced approach scoring wise. Tony Davis, Alicia Wilkerson, Emily Tarpley, Kamaria Murray, and Amani Sharif are all averaging about 8 points a game or more. How has that balance helped your team be successful so far this season?
Yeah, that's kind of the approach that honestly the best teams that I've ever been around have had. If you can have more than just one or two players that do a lot of your scoring, you're a lot harder team to guard. If you got one or two players that, normally score the basketball, you can kind of shift defenses and try to, take certain things away. But the way that our team is set up and the way that we kind of approach, we take whatever's available, and all 5 on the floor at any time are capable of scoring. And it's still figures. And, all 5 of those girls that you just mentioned are all capable of scoring 20 points in a game. So, that's exciting for me as a coach. That makes me feel a little bit more comfortable going in, knowing that, if one of our players is not having a great night shooting, that somebody else is going to pick them up. And I think that's one reason we've been successful this year.
You were someone who had the interim tag first, Bill, and then you became the head coach. What has that been experienced like, not only in that transition, but now just leading an entire program, especially with a good group like that you've got now?
Well, that's a good question. And I get that asked a lot. The interim tag on it was, something that Mr. Luker, our principal, gave to me. And honestly, it was more of protection for me. I never approached it one day as if I was the interim. From day one, I took it on as I was going to be the full-time head coach. And that's the way I went about it every single day. Going through that last year and, competing every single day with those girls, we just kind of really started to build a culture of what was going to be accepted and what we wanted to be about. And, it culminated last year with the big win over Stewart's Creek to get us to the region. But a lot of people don't know we had 6 players last year that were in our rotation that were out for the season with injuries. So, we felt like last year, I know we had the really one big win that everybody got to know. We felt like we had a lot of pieces coming back this year. And if we'd had them all last year, we felt like, it could have been an even more special year. But the interim thing, when we won and they named me the full-time head coach, I was just really excited and really glad to continue on what we started. And I should tell y'all guys this too. Maybe I was the person for the job. I don't know, but my dad started the Blackman girls program. I don't know if y'all knew that part or not. He was the first head girls basketball coach at Blackman. The first 4 years of that program's existence, and I was a player that first year at Blackman. And so I got to experience, opening a new school, kind of going through that kind of stuff. So all of that, those things helped me as I got started with this Rockvale program as well.
Yeah, that sounds like it ended up being a good match for both sides there here at Rockvale. And Bill, you mentioned this at the top. You kind of mentioned the Stewart's Creek upset last year in the district tournament as being a program changing moment. And of course your team did that without a lot of those injured players you were alluding to. Is that what kind of jump-started the whole thing this offseason? And I guess what kind of confidence do you think the team was able to glean from that and kind of carry that over into this season?
Absolutely. I think that was a good starting point for this season from last year. It gave us the confidence knowing we can go out there and compete and be really good competition. I thought the Stewart's Creek team last year was really a top 5, top 10 type team in the state last year. And for us to go in there and at their gym pull that one off, it kind of really started us going in the right direction this season. I just feel like our girls got a lot of confidence from that and really fed off that all summer and all preseason and then all through this regular season.
Bill, I had no idea that you have this history of in-game operations at the college level. Are you still the clock operator at Belmont? And I guess Russell said you're still doing some instant replay work at Vanderbilt. I can't imagine what that's like, juggling coaching in that, but can you sort of give us a rundown of what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, this is about my 15th year running the clock for Vanderbilt basketball. It just kind of started off. I was getting out of college looking for some stuff to do. I was at a Vanderbilt game. They were in the NIT one night, and they made an announcement that they needed somebody to run the clock. And being around basketball, and I had done that at my college a little bit, so I went over there and did that game. And the next year they asked me to fill in for about 2 games, and then the next year I was full time. So I've been doing that for about this is my 15th year doing it at Vanderbilt. I did it for about 8 years at Belmont, and then when I came over to Rockvale, I kind of had to make some choices. So, I kind of let the Belmont go, even though I'm really good friends with Casey Alexander and the staff over there at Belmont. But, I do still fill in a little bit on the weekends for Vanderbilt. I do. I've been about, 4 games this year. I'll probably end up doing about 8 before their regular season's over with. And, I've been able to do some games at the SEC tournament. I've actually done the last 7 SEC men's championship games. I've been in there working those the last 7 years. Now, this year with it being in Tampa, Florida, I doubt I'll be able to get there for that. But, me as a basketball coach, I used it to really help me every single day that I got to go do a game. I would pick something up from one of the teams that I could try to incorporate into the teams that I was working with at that time. Every night I go, I'll pick up an underneath inbound play, sideline out of bounds play, an offensive step somebody runs. Depending on what the personnel is, I can, and I'm lucky enough to sit courtside at the SEC level and see all these great teams and great coaches come through. I've been really blessed to be able to do that.
As a follow up, I mean, is your clock operator at Rockvale nervous that you're going to catch them doing something wrong? I mean, are they held to like a super high standard over there? Or what?
Well, it's me being able to do that. I catch a lot of things that most other people don't get unless you're in that position. Like the clock, they'll throw the ball in bounds, and there'll be 2 dribbles down the court, and I'll just start yelling out, "Start the clock!" I catch those kind of things. So luckily, our clock operator here is a good friend of mine. I've known him a long time, Danny Kendrick, and he knows that I'm not going to hold him to that standard. He does a really good job for us here.
Well, you might make some of those visiting team clock operators nervous when you go on the road, Bill. But, speaking of that, you guys have a couple more games here to close out the regular season this week against Oakland and Siegel. What's it going to take to finish strong here and to try to get that number 2 seed for the District 7 4A tournament that's coming up?
Yeah, for sure. But, we need to just come out. We're playing another really well-coached Oakland team tonight at our place. We got on them pretty good at their place earlier in the year. Got off to, 14-0 start after the first quarter. You don't expect that every single night going out there. But, we know Oakland's going to come bring their best game tonight. We know for us, though, and we've talked about this is kind of what we talk about. It's never the opponent. It's always about us. The opponent is always ourselves. We talk about that every single day. As long as we do what we're supposed to do and take care of our business and execute the way we're supposed to execute, we're going to be fine and have a chance to, wrap up that number 2 seed going into the tournament next week.
Well, Rockville School, certainly there's a long history there, but between, the consolidation with Riverdale in the 70s and such, the program itself at Rockville hadn't been to the state tournament, I guess, since 1941. What would that mean to that community? You know as well as anybody, Bill, about what that might mean to that school.
That, they are very sport hungry here in the Rockville community. And if we were able to be lucky enough to be able to do that and get to that state tournament, I think the entire Rockville community would be there. We might fill up Murphy Center with just people from Rockville because I know there's that much support out here from all the people out here and that much excitement about our basketball team this year. It's really started to really pick up as we've gone on and had some good wins and gotten some good publicity from different outlets, and I'm real appreciative of that. I just for our girls and for our coaching staff, we take it one day at a time, one step at a time. We really feel like we have a chance if we do what we're supposed to do to end up there. That's our goal. We've talked about that since day one. We want to end up, we felt like we were good enough to be at Murphy Center at the end this year. And that's kind of how we've gone about it every single day. But I do know that the Rockvale community is really behind us. And if we were to get to the state tournament, man, what a day that would be. And that Murphy Center would be all blue for the most part.
Well, Bill, it should be fun to see how everything plays out here as the season comes to an end, but we certainly appreciate your time on a game day, no less, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the way.
Hey, we really appreciate the time, and thank y'all for everything y'all do for high school sports.
Absolutely. That's been Rockvale girls basketball coach Bill Hockenberry. So, Tyler, they've had a great season. They're right there in our rankings. I know we'll get to those in just a moment, but it's always neat to see a school that is new and having success. There's several in the area that have done so in various sports. Summit High School comes to mind, Owensville, Green Hill, and now Rockvale. It doesn't seem like it takes very long for these new schools to kind of gain some traction in athletics, just with how much the area has grown and how many good athletes show up at these schools within a couple of years. It seems like they're able to put together some pretty good athletic programs.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you hit it on the head. I was going to mention the same schools. It's kind of amazing to see, but yeah, it's definitely driven by some unprecedented growth, but I think it's a nod to just maybe the amount of total athletes, the quality athletes that have come into the area recently. And, speaking of Rockville in particular, it's not a team I've seen, but Russell, you have, but you just look at their results and it's a brutal schedule in that area that they're in. And it's specifically that district, just tons of great basketball. I think all the coaches would say it's a great coaching fraternity too, as well. So, Rockvale checks in. Let's move on to the rankings here. Our Fab 15 mid-state basketball power rankings. Rockvale checked in this week at 17-5, and they're at number 14. We'll talk a little bit about them here in a second. Let's run through the top 5 here. Blackman at 1, followed by Ensworth, Webb School, Cookville, and Page. Really, this was not too of a dramatic week in the girls' rankings. We didn't have any movement from 1 through 7. A lot of the best teams in our poll, our power poll, if you will, are just kind of rolling through their schedule. A lot of double-digit wins at this point from what we're seeing. Couple of the movers. Lebanon went from number 8 to number 10. Ran into one of those teams that I mentioned in Cookville, which is still 25-0. Cookville won 63-40 last week. Finley Thompson helped Lebanon rebound with a bounce-back win over Green Hill with 16 points. Westmoreland and East Nashville technically were the biggest movers, going up 2 spots, both after double-digit wins. And look at this. This is something you've written about, Russell, but 4 of East Nashville's past 5 opponents have failed to score 16 points. That is remarkable.
Yes.
And Rockvale dropped a couple spots from 12 to 14. I think you could probably make a case maybe that they should have fallen out, but like I said, that district's difficult. The losses, 2 of them have been to number 1 Blackman and number 6 Coffee County by a combined 9 points. So I don't see that as a huge cause for concern. If anything, I think most coaches would kind of like to have that kind of a challenge at this point, depending on what kind of group they have. But nevertheless, Rockville has lost 2 or 3. But I don't see those losses too big of a concern, really. Stewart's Creek entered the poll at 15 again, back on an 8-game win streak. That included a 4-point win over a 21-3 Bradley Central team last week. So good quality win. Number 13, Livingston Academy dropped out, and felt like Creekwood at 20-4 and Ravenwood 17-7 were the 2 that just missed there. Creekwood's put together a pretty good year, and so has Ravenwood for that matter. So, we'll see what happens this week. Both of them have definitely some games coming up that could maybe change some of the trajectory in our poll, depending on how things go.
All righty. Well, we've got the girls' rankings up there on mainstreetpreps.com, along with the boys too, which we're going to run down right now. The top 5 on the boys side. Brentwood Academy takes over as the new number 1, and we'll get to why in just a moment. Beach at number 2, Cane Ridge number 3, Innsworth number 4, and Pope Prep slides into the top 5 for the first time. So Brentwood Academy, they've had an argument, Tyler, for this entire time, probably to be the number 1. They are 23-0. They've played a very tough schedule in that Division II AA middle region. And, with the way they've been playing, coupled with the scare that Beach had at Gallatin last week in double overtime, I think we both agreed that it was time to move the Eagles up to that top spot.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those kind of apples and oranges conversations. I don't know that it's necessarily a knock on Beach as much as it is a tip of the cap to Brentwood Academy, because, Beach pulled out a game in overtime at a Gallatin against a Gallatin team that's over 500. And, there's something to be said for that, but Brentwood Academy just plays in a brutal region. That is the most competitive region that you'll find in basketball in this area this year. And to continue winning through that is super impressive. Just ask Innsworth, which has lost NBA, and was it Pope Prep recently?
I think they lost two of their last 3 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's just a tough region. So I think it's more of a hat tip to Brentwood Academy than it is a knock on Beach.
Definitely. And speaking of that region, you mentioned Pope Prep. They are sitting there at 18-7 now in the top 5. Like you mentioned, they were able to pull an upset of Innsworth 58-56 on the road last Friday. So a big win for them, led, of course, by Tristan Conger. He had a big night, 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Really think that the Knights are probably a team to watch here in the postseason, especially in that middle region tournament we were talking about. And when you throw in Brentwood Academy, Innsworth, NBA, Lipscomb, and Pope Prep, it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. There weren't too many other big movers here, Tyler, but Lebanon did leapfrog Green Hill for number 8 with its overtime win over the Hawks last Friday. And so Lebanon now has the inside track to get that number 1 seed for the District 9 4A tournament. And the Blue Devils, don't look now, but they seem to be over their cold streak that they had in early January. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. Maybe peaking at the right time here as the postseason comes around. So Lebanon now number 8, and Green Hill is sitting there just behind them at number 9. And lastly, Clay County and Columbia both dropped a couple of spots after suffering losses last week, but no real major concern there. They were both able to bounce back later in the week with wins. So they are both still in the poll. Columbia at number 6 and Clay County at number 13. Of course, nobody dropped out of the poll, and there were no new entrants this week, but there's a couple teams knocking on the door that could slip in, depending on how this week's results go. So Franklin at 21-6, Greenbrier at 20-2, and York Institute at 18-6 are all sitting right there on the outside looking in. Tyler, how about some top games to watch this week? There are plenty of those, right?
Yeah, it's our last games of the week for the regular season, I guess, technically, right?
Yeah,
which is hard to believe, but in no particular order here on the boys' side, Stewart's Creek at Cane Ridge is going to be interesting, and not just because they're both above 500. Obviously, Cane Ridge we have at number 3 in our Fab 15, but this is Cane Ridge's senior. That's their last regular season home game, so they're going to celebrate senior night at halftime of both games. It's a TV game. That'll be a lot of fun, but I mean, really the main event is being able to honor Brandon Miller and everything that he's done. Probably the best basketball player to come through Metro. I think it'll be a special night in that gym, just as that community and school, honor what he's done. Very special talent. So that should be a fun night in that gym. Hunter's Lane at Beach. Again, this one wasn't particularly close at Hunter's Lane last time. It kind of got away from Hunter's Lane toward the end, but it really wasn't. It was closer than the score probably indicated. I think it was like a 20-point win, but I don't think Beach is going to take anybody lightly after that Gallatin game. And like we've mentioned a lot, in addition to the Beach's standouts, if you have a chance to go see Asa Hardyway and Trey Rutherford from Hunter's Lane, that it's worth it. They're really good. Hardyway is he's kind of has the green light from wherever he's at, and he's fun to watch. He really is. Columbia Independence is the other big one that I see. It'll basically decide the District 12 number 1 seed. That guard matchup of Jet Montgomery and Hugh Martin is going to be worth the price of a ticket there. A couple others that are good, of course, the obligatory Division 2A Middle Region, Brentwood Academy at MBA, Innsworth at Lipscomb are both going to be really good. So those are a couple others to keep an eye out on the boys' side. Flipping over to the girls, Clarksville at Rossview is an interesting one. Clarksville at 15-4 is going to give it its best shot against a Rossview team that's only lost twice and plays really good defense. Certainly kind of a regional rivalry there that'll be interesting. Thursday at Loretto at 23-0 still, at Creekwood, which is 20-4. I think it's an intriguing one because it's 2 20-win teams. It's that you don't always get that in the regular season. Loretto's coming in a class of its own, playing really good basketball, and is probably still the favorite here. But Creekwood is not bad. It has some quality wins and is now won 12 in a row. So that'll be interesting to watch, and that might be something that Casey Patrick, our comrade out there, might go cover. I don't know. Friday, Brentwood at Ravenwood, the Battle of the Woods. Went to Ravenwood last time in the first meeting, 45-33. Both teams are still over 500, and I think both are capable of making some postseason noise. In what capacity we're probably gonna find out. I don't know if either one of us, Russell, have seen both of the Brentwood and Ravenwood teams. I know you saw Brentwood, and I think I saw Ravenwood. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah,
so
I mean, Ravenwood.
We've not seen both.
Yeah, I mean, right. But Brentwood with the Ryan sisters and Ravenwood with a solid crew out there, led by Reagan Grimes, just signed with Tennessee Tech last week. That ought to be a fun gym. Let's see what else we got. Cumberland County at White County. White County's number 8 in our rankings, safely, I would say. I would add too. But Cumberland County's played well against a tough schedule, and they've got a couple nice wins over Brentwood and Livingston Academy. So, that one could be interesting as well. We'll just have to see. But and it's always kind of interesting to come back and look at the results from the previous week and find out actually what games lived up to the billing and what games maybe that we didn't mention end up being really good. So this might be one of those weeks too, because it's crunch time, Russell. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Indeed, we are. And I think, of those games you just listed off, I think on the boys' side, a couple that really stick out to me is, scores I'm going to be looking for. That Columbia at Independence boys game on Friday that's going to decide District 12. That's a fascinating matchup. It was really close the first time they played. And then also, a game that you don't see a whole lot on the girls' side, Creekwood hosting Loretto. I don't know that those teams have played anytime recently. And so you're right. That's going to be a prime opportunity for Creekwood. If they show well, or if they even manage to win that game, could very well find themselves in the Fab 15 rankings next week. So we'll just have to see about that.
Yeah, I love small school basketball versus maybe a larger class, which is the case there, right?
I think I need to double check that. Is Creekwood? I think Creekwood they're either in 3A or 2A, so they might actually be in the same classification now. We need to fact check ourselves on that one.
We don't have the luxury of a in real time fact checker necessarily, but in any case, I think it's going to be a good game. And Creekwood's somebody it seems like they always end up on the just missed, or they're in the conversation about every week because it's been such a solid season. I don't think people talk enough about just getting to the 20 win mark in basketball. We talk about schedules, but you're a pretty good team if you can get to 20 wins by February 8th. You're doing something right. I mean, unless you're really playing a weak schedule. So, good season for them so far. And again, about to get serious here in the next few weeks for all involved, for the teams and also for us reporters that are out kind of pounding the pavement and trying to keep up with these games. So we're all going to have to take a deep breath here soon and get ready.
That's right. And of course, you can find all of this coverage from myself and Tyler, along with our excellent Main Street Preps staff from all over the region at mainstreetpreps.com. Follow us on Twitter at Main Street Preps, and like our Facebook page by just searching up Main Street Preps, and you can stay in the loop on everything that's happening across Middle Tennessee. And with that, we thank you for joining us again this week on Main Street Preps this week, and we will see you back here next time.
This has been Main Street Preps This Week with Russell Venozzi and Tyler Palmatier. Follow on Twitter at Main Street Preps. Follow Russell at RussellV_MSP and Tyler at TPalmatier83 on Twitter and also online at MainStreetPreps.com. Main Street Preps This Week is a production of Main Street Media.